What is going on, everybody? It is your host, Cruiser Media, also known as Nick, back at it again with another video. Today, we're going to be doing something a little bit different. This is going to be one of many Photoshop tutorials. This is going to be kind of on the more advanced side, but it is something that I just recently learned and was playing around with, and I thought that it was super cool and very, very helpful to edit photos. So just to improve them and set them just over that edge, you know, make them look real good, look real special. So today, that's what we're going to be jumping into. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into Photoshop, and we are going to be playing around with the spin blur and other motion blur type filter, not necessarily filters, but tweaks, and I will show you all what we're doing. So let's go ahead and jump right into the video. And today we're going to be working inside of the Photoshop beta. If you don't know how to download this, it's super easy and you can get it for yourself fairly easily. So we're going to go ahead and open up our, I'm so used to my Mac controls. We're going to go ahead and open up our picture here. And the first thing that we're going to do, as you can see here, the background is static and there is absolutely no motion blur going on here, which is what I was mentioning in the beginning. You know, I shot this at way too high of a shutter speed to really capture any of the motion or the action going on here. So the first thing that the first thing that we're going to be doing here is working with the background. So as you can see, nothing is moving. There is absolutely no motion going on. So we're going to really quickly hit this select subject button, and it's not going to be perfect, but it should be able to select most of the subject here. And what we're going to do is get our lasso tool or our marquee tool, and we're going to right click and select inverse. So now our background is selected, and we are going to go ahead and Control C, Control V to create. I keep pressing Windows because I'm used to my Mac. We are going to Control C, Control V, and that is going to create a copy of the background. As you can see, if we deselect or hide the main imported picture, it is going to give us everything except for the car and just a little bit of the front clip there, which is fine. You know, this isn't going to be perfect. This is going to be just a basic quick tutorial here. So here we go. We've got our background layer selected. We're going to run up to Filter, Blur Gallery, and we are going to be working with the path blur. So we click path blur, and as you can see, it gives us this nice arrow which shows us the direction that we can set this motion blur. As you can see now, we have this real nice motion blur going on in the foreground and the background. The smoke isn't really going to see any of that motion blur just because it is smoke. You know, this was a drift pit. I digress. So anyways, we've got this here, which almost looks perfect. So the way that I am pushing the arrow is the way that I would be moving my camera to capture the subject. So we can play this a couple ways. We could make it seem as though the subject is sliding from the right to the left, so we can drag the arrow to change that motion blur going the opposite direction. So our camera would be going from the right to the left, tracking the subject. But the way I'm looking at it is our subject is sliding into the frame from the left to the right. So we are capturing it as it is sliding from the left side of the frame to the right side of the frame. And now this isn't a raw photo. I just want to clarify this was edited in Lightroom. So I did change the color grading, the shadows, the highlights, etc. So we have this motion blur set, which is just getting the background. So our car is still perfectly in focus, and we can change the speed taper and the endpoint speed, which I'm not really going to touch. We can change this one down just a little bit to make the motion blur not as intense, but I am going for more of a blurry photo. I really want this to seem like this car was hauling, and it was. When he was in the pit, he was really going. So I'm going to set that at around 99 to we'll probably get it in the sweet spot at about 111. So as you can see, it is very blurry. So this car is moving. and we can just go ahead and hit OK once you're satisfied with that motion blur, and it is going to go ahead and apply it to our background layer that we did copy from the main image. Once this works, my computer is a little slow, please excuse it, and it's still working. So there is our background blur. Again, it did clip a little bit of the front end of this car, but I'm not going to make too big of a deal out of it just because, oops, I keep pressing the wrong buttons. I'm not going to make too big of a deal of it just because, you know, why would I? So next thing that we're going to need to do is apply some spin to the tire or the wheel, because we don't want the wheel to be looking like it's not moving when clearly it is spinning. I mean, you can see the dirt and rocks flying out from behind it. You can see the tire smoke as well. So we want to add some motion to this wheel as well as the front too, because you can see it's just there. And so what we're going to do for that is we're going to select our main background image, filter, blur gallery again, and we're going to select spin blur instead of path blur. This one does get a little bit confusing, but it is, in all reality, it is super easy to use. So this center point is going to be where that spin starts, and then it's going to feather outwards. So you've got these two different points here all in this circle. So these are where the spin is going to be focused, and then it will feather out from there to this outside line. So we're going to take this and put it about to the edge of the wheel here. We're going to get that tire included as well. And then we are going to shrink this down, this outside circle, which is going to move our focus points of the spin. And, you know, it doesn't have to be perfect, but we do want it to get mostly the entire wheel and tire. So we're going to feather that out a little bit, because remember, our main focus here is these center points, because that is where the spin is going to be mostly focused and where it is going to stop. This just is going to outline, you know, that's going to be where it is encapsulated. So we're going to go ahead and drag these points out to about the edge of the tire. And there we go. We can go ahead and move it around just a little bit, kind of play with it. And again, you're going to have this blur angle as well, which is going to how much blur you want, you know, how much do you want it to be spinning. So as you can see, our center cap here isn't really getting any of that spin, which is our center point right there. So we're going to go ahead and mess around with the blur angle. If you really wanted to get blurry, you can crank that up, but that looks super edited. You don't want to use that. So we're going to kind of keep it in the sweet spot of probably about, I would say a good range is 15 to 40, you know, depending on how fast you want this to look. Now, this picture was not sharp enough in the beginning to really mask out any of the caliper or the rotor. We aren't going to worry about that just because this is going to be a quick tutorial, but I will come out with another one to show you, hey, you can fake your rollers like this. Now, the spin isn't going to be extremely perfect just because, again, we are moving quick, but now you can see, oh, that wheel is very clearly moving. Outside here, we will tilt it a little bit, and of course, you know, you can play with this as much as you need to just to kind of fit your subject properly. So there we go. We've got our center point. It's not going to be exact, but for what we're doing, it'll work. And we are going to, again, change the blur angle. We're going to crank that down just a little bit because, again, this front is not going to be moving near as much as the rear or as fast. So once we get to a nice little happy medium, we're going to click OK. And there we go. We've got our motion blur to the front, to the rears, and to the background. So there we are, guys. That is a super basic introduction to the spin blur tool. Anyways, guys, I hope that you found this tutorial helpful. If you did, let me know in the comments below, and let me know your feedback by hitting that like button. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comments below, and I will be sure to address any and all questions that you may have regarding this, regarding Photoshop, anything else. I hope that you enjoyed the video and found it helpful. Guys, this has been Nick, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye.